What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're talking about Lomography's 400 speed color film. Lomo 400, as a lot of you know it. This film is very, very sought after because it's one of the few alternatives to 400 speed color film. So of course you've got Portra, which is kind of the number one. It's the one everybody typically goes for. Then you've got Fuji Pro 400H, which as we know now is on its way out. And then what does that leave us with? Well, not really much. Lomography 400 is basically the only true alternative other than those two. So this film is very sought after. I think it's a bit cheaper than Portra as well. And therefore, when it comes out and when it's available to buy, it sells out fast. The only one that sells out faster than this is the 800 speed film, which we're not gonna be talking about here. So anyways, what is the point of using this film? Well, this film is a C41 color film, just like any other C41 film you've used. This is not a gag film. This is not one of those alternative kind of, creative type films. This is full blown what you expect from C41. And it gives you really beautiful colors, really nice kind of sharpness, and it's a very good film. This is something that I would recommend to anybody who's considering using it. Don't think about it, go ahead and just do it. So real quick, everybody talks about what is this film, because this film is made by Kodak, which is not surprising considering Kodak is probably the biggest film manufacturer in the entire world and one of the few that's left. So Kodak makes this film, and the question is this a unique film stock or is it repurposed from one of the other Kodak existing film stocks? And I don't know the answer. My hunch though, if I would have to say, this probably resembles Ultramax 400 pretty well, just in my experience, but that's based off of just what I'm seeing, not anything I actually know for concrete truth. The other thing is, does it matter what this film is based on? I don't think so. I think the most important thing here is that as long as Kodak and other film manufacturers are making film, whether it's for their own brand or for other brands, I think that's humongous. Film is on its way out. How long it's gonna be around for? Will it be around for much longer? These are things we don't know the answer to. And therefore, the more film that's being made, regardless of who it's for, the better it is for us. We need as much film being made out there as possible, whether it's unique brands, third-party brands, new brands, it doesn't matter. More film is better. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this film. So I think one of the best use cases for this film is actually travel and kind of everyday walking around photography. There's kind of two good reasons for that. One is, again, the price, as I mentioned earlier. This will get you a little bit cheaper of a cost when it comes to shooting really good quality C41 film. So, that's kind of self-explanatory. The other thing, though, is the look. I think this film, it punches a little bit stronger than something like Portra. Portra, as we kind of know, gives you a bit of a flatter image that you are kind of compelled to then tweak and do whatever you want with. Lomography 400 gives you a bit more of a punchy kind of saturated look, and that's why I think it reminds me of Ultramax. When you put this film in front of a nice, well-lit view, it really is going to pull out a lot of color from a lot of the things that you're looking at. I think reds and greens, those things really, really pop here. So I really think this film is really good for that. And let's say you're going on vacation and you're going to be walking around somewhere nice and sunny, kind of adventure-y, just kind of, doing your thing casually. Very, very good film to use. It is 400 speed, which means it's very versatile. You can use it basically the entire day. Of course, as long as you stop down during really, really bright situations. But this is really nice film to have, especially later in the day as you approach golden hour, as you approach sunset. Because of the faster speed, so that'll help you, kind of keep up with the light going away. But then also, I just think the film itself handles what happens to the sky really, really well during golden hour and even into blue hour. Here's a couple of examples. These are images that I took when I was in the Peak District recently. As you saw on Instagram, I was hiking around doing my thing. But where I stayed, the backyard kind of faced to this open field that was a big farmland with sheep and all that stuff. And I sat here, drinking some beer, listening to some music all throughout the golden hour. And I just started snapping away with this. This was on 35mm, which means I had a bunch more shots to use. And therefore, I got after it. And I was just so impressed at how this film handled the dynamic range of the scene. You get some texture in the sky, still some detail. But then I was even more impressed about how it pulled out so much color from the field. There's a shot right here where, you've got the sun coming directly onto the field. You see how brilliant the scene is, there's so much going on. A couple moments later, you have the same exact scene without the sun, right when the sun kind of went below the horizon. And now you have kind of that like dusk look where it's, purpley sky, a lot of pink. And it's a very kind of much more flat scene, less contrast. But even here, you see how much detail and how much color Lomography 400 was able to pull out of the scene. So I love this. I was super impressed by this. I had really no idea what to expect here, and that's why I took so many photos. But I was just so impressed at how well the detail rendered here. you know, we've got some other scenes we can look at here. This is actually shot on my Agfa Isolette. This is from a little kind of walk around shooting that I did with Zane and Leo a few weeks ago. And this is the scene from one of the bridges looking out to kind of the Thames River here in London. And it's great. You just see again how the Lomography 400 really handles that late golden hour scene very nicely. You still get some good detail in the sky, as I said, and then it just loves that like golden orangey leading into purple kind of colors that you get late into the sunset. So I love this film so far. And you know, whether you're shooting 35 or 120, it does the job really nicely. And these photos were shot on an old camera, the ones I just showed you here from the bridges in London. That's my Agfa Isolette 3, which I think is from the 50s or something, maybe the 60s. So even with those kind of older lenses that probably aren't coated the same way as modern lenses, it did the job very, very nicely. So I'm very, very impressed. And then in this particular photo here where you have, I think that's Westminster, and you've got, you know, the river at low tide and all that, I was able to pull a lot of information out of the shadows, not only in the scan, which is what you see up right here, but then also in the prints. You know, let me show you this print that I made right here. You've probably seen this on Instagram already, but this is a print I made of that exact scene. And very simple print, you know, I kind of messed around with the color just a bit to get the sky where I wanted it. And here it's very light. I didn't go too hard in either direction, whether cool or warm. But I think the important part here is up here where you see the trees and also parts of Westminster over here. That's all being backlit because the sunset is happening behind it. So I actually dodged this area a bit to increase the exposure here. And you see so much detail. I could have gotten really creative here and done some kind of micro dodging in order to kind of paint some lines and get some texture in the trees, but that's a lot of work. I didn't feel like doing that. Either way, I could pull a lot of information out of here, and this is, you know, a classic C41 negative. Lomography 400 is C41 like anything else that you've probably shot, and that means you get the benefits of being able to really work that exposure and pull out a lot of detail from your shadows and also control the highlights very well. C41 film, color negative film in general, is really good for this. So definitely recommend this film kind of for basically anything you're gonna do. So let's talk about pro work. Should pros use this film? I think the answer is why not? This film can definitely do its thing. I think if you want more of a muted look and you want to be able to control everything, then maybe, you know, use Portra. But if this is what you've got, you can make some fantastic work with this. I don't see any reason why this film isn't as capable as another. It just has a different look. But the look is not some aggressive bad thing. It's actually, I think, kind of charming. You know, I've got a couple portraits that I did here. So let's look at this print right here. So this print is from a shoot that I did a few weeks ago. My friend Eltan, and he has great musical artist, does a lot of singing, rapping, produces his own music, plays a lot of instruments. Really, really talented dude. But in this print right here, I went with a more of a golden look for the print. And honestly, if I did this again, I'd probably kind of go away from the golden look and kind of go more into the cooler side. But, you know, this is doing exactly what I wanted to do. There's detail everywhere. You know, this is from my Pentax 6.7, so the negative is very big. You get a lot of detail. But there's nothing wrong with this. I think you could definitely finagle this into whatever you want, especially on the scan. You know, you can control scans a lot more easily. Printing, you know, takes a little bit more work, but there's no reason why you couldn't do professional shoot. Here's another one that I did here. It's from the same exact shoot. So this one, it's more of a full body shot, and I just love the look. There's nothing that I would say is bad about this film. And you can control those colors, you can control kind of the exposure and all of that just as well as you could with Portra. It's just that this kind of gives you something more off the top. In terms of skin color, he does have darker skin. So actually, let's go back to the picture here. He does have darker skin, and I think that this film handles that decently well. I think there's some, you can pull out some color out of the skin, even though it's darker skin. I think that's where Portra, at least Portra 160 doesn't do a good job. Portra 400, as I said in one of my other videos, which you can check out right here, I think that does pretty good job, honestly. It was hard for me to pick 400 Portra versus Fuji Pro 400H. So here's another comparison here. And I think if I was able to kind of work this a little bit more, that I could probably balance the golden exposure with his skin. Here I focus more on the skin than the actual surrounding part of the image, which is why I think it's a bit more golden. But, you know, either way, I still think it works. So overall, go shoot Lomography 400. There's no reason you should avoid it. If you can find it, it's probably going to be a bit cheaper than what you've seen for Portra, so it's a great deal. So tell me in the comments, what's your experience with Lomography 400? Do you like it? I don't see a lot of people talking too much about this. Usually it's just like, hey, it's on sale, let's buy it all, and then it sells out. Then you don't really hear about it again. So let me know in the comments, what's your experience been? Do you enjoy this film? Do you like the look that it gives you? And give me your best guess as to what film stock this is, whether it's, Ultramax like I think it is, or you think it's something else. All right, y'all, that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, of course, go ahead and click the like button because that helps me a lot. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. A lot more content coming, all right? All right, y'all, I'm out.